Hi, Luz. Okay. And Jonathan, are we expecting anyone else?
I didn't hear you. I had bad internet today.
Are we expecting anyone else?
Uh, we are expecting and list, but Kim cannot, and Piggy scheduled an IVRP meeting too.
Okay. Then in that case, we'll give it one more sec and then we'll get started. Flag me down if you can't hear me or if I'm cutting in and out. I think like most of us, I'm dealing with some weird internet this week.
Everyone's got the agenda and all that. Looks like a lot of people are on that. I'll just put it in the chat just in case. Liz, can you only do 30 minutes?
Yeah, that's true. I've got to get to another meeting. Sorry.
Okay, no worries.
Okay. I think in that case, we'll go ahead and get started. Oh, and I see Melissa is joining now too, which is great. So we will get started. I'll call the meeting to order. I'd like to announce that the meeting is being recorded. Jonathan, can you do a roll call?
Yeah, Director Brandt.
Here.
Present. Pagin Sutar is not present. Anamaya.
Here.
Leonor Reyes.
Here.
Margaret Clown is not here. Christian Ornelas.
Here.
Thank you, Christian. Luz Reyes Martin.
Here.
Melissa Cohen.
Here.
And Kim Yasuda is not able to make it.
Okay. Thanks, everyone, for being here. Before we begin, we'd like to acknowledge the Chumash people, who are the traditional custodians of this land. We pay our respects to the Chumash elders, past, present, and future, who call this place Anaskoyo, the land that Isla Vista sits upon, their home. We are proud to continue their tradition of coming together and growing as a community. We thank the Chumash community for their stewardship and support, and we look forward to strengthening our ties as we continue our relationship of mutual respect and understanding. So at this time, we're going to move into public comment. Are there any members of the public here with comments on things that are not on? Okay, so we'll close public comment period and we'll go into item 3.1, which is the COVID-19 impact on the community center. So we've got an update from Jonathan and Deborah on some of the activities that have been going on since the pandemic began. So I'll throw it over to you.
Great. Hopefully you all hear everything I'm gonna say, just because it's I can't hear everything that's being said myself. But ask me to repeat, no worries. The basically where we're at right now with the community center is it's only operating on Wednesday and Fridays from 12:30 to 2:30 as a homeless services center, and we do things like help people connect with social services, distribute around 35 meals, pass out hygiene kits and masks, and gotta admit somebody, and things like that. And it's been a good success. It's an extension of what we've always done in our office with coordinated entry and AmeriCorps Home for Good. So that's the only use of the community center at this point. there had been other ideas and asks of what it could be used for right now. One of the pending ones is Eco Vista, which is a class at UCSB, is looking to use it as a pickup location some certain times of the week, starting this weekend, where people can pick up trash bags and other supplies to help with the move out and as volunteers. And so that's one proposed idea by a group in town for this, next month. Besides that, there's no other proposed use of the space that we've been asked about or that has come up in any of our discussions as of right now. And besides that, our board took an action right after the last meeting of this board that was a resolution to declare the emergency and say that our facilities would only be used for emergency response and essential needs during the pandemic. So we are gonna go in line with the county and the state and seeing how the restrictions on gatherings play out, and then keep our eyes on it. I mean, it's looking like we probably won't get back to normal use until after the summer at the very earliest. But that's the update for now. And so I think the proposed discussion or input would be what else, any ideas or needs that could be put forth through the community center, or any thoughts on how we roll out, maybe start looking at how we roll into reopening. Like, do we try to just do smaller events when those become allowed, or wait a little longer beyond what the actual rules are? So that's the discussion for right now.
Great. Thank you for that update, Jonathan. And thank you to you and the United Way AmeriCorps Home for Good staff for all the work that you put into the Homeless Services Center. It's a really crucial time right now for serving our houseless neighbors in the community. And it's been really incredible to see what we've been able to do tackling some of these difficult things like hunger and homelessness. So thank you for the work that you've put into that.
Spencer,
I guess I want to, sorry.
this is Anamaya. Can Jonathan repeat the times that they're open on Wednesdays and Fridays, please?
Yeah, so the times are 12:30 to 2:30.
Thank you.
I wanted to sort of pose a question to everyone in the group, since we all have various different constituencies that we serve and work with on a regular basis. And the last time that we met, we were not quite as far along in the running process as we are now. So I'm curious to hear from everyone sort of what your feeling is in terms of where your populations are at in terms of comfortability, sort of just looking forward to the future time when we may be able to open up a public space. Is that something that people would even feel comfortable doing and attending? I know, just speaking from personal experience, there was probably the most social activity that I had, or sort of outdoor public activity in large crowds that I had since this began, was this weekend with some of the protests that occurred. And it definitely changed my view in terms of what people are comfortable doing in public. So I'm curious if other people have thought about this.
Was that, I don't know if that was Jonathan or Spencer that spoke. This is Margaret, because I was there on Saturday, so I just wanted to, I don't know. I want to make sure I know the question because I just jumped in.
I feel
Thanks,
the same way. I
Margaret.
couldn't understand the question.
My question was, what is your view on what people's level of comfortability gathering, in spaces like this is? And the reason I ask is because we've had a couple of different ideas for how we could use the community center space in a socially distanced way. And I'm just wondering if you think that that's something that people in Vista would even feel comfortable doing.
Good question. Yeah, I don't know. I think you have to be really careful. I don't know. I do know that we're talking at the university a lot about the fact that we're not authorized yet to have anybody other than essential personnel in buildings on campus. So I don't know where the community center sits in terms of the governor's phased reopening and those kinds of issues.
It's a great question. So like Jonathan said a little bit earlier, we will remain closed for a while through at least the rest of the summer. But sort of looking forward, I think it's good for us to be thinking and really trying to put our finger on the pulse of what people are comfortable with, and if there would be an appetite for opening the center for something like a socially distanced study space for students. I know that with the stay-at-home order, we've heard a lot of different comments just about how people are cooped up in sort of this cabin fever, and it can be really difficult to try and get your studying in or have that privacy to be able to concentrate, given the fact that everyone else is at home at the same time. So I guess I bring it up in this context because I want us to be thinking about, is that something that the community would be comfortable with once we move into the appropriate phases, once the governor says we can move through the reopening process.
So I apologize for asking you to repeat. I'm going to let other people talk. The one thing that I'll say from what we're discussing at the university is the importance of having a cleaning protocol in place for the building. And then the other thing would be we're talking about what testing will take place for our population in terms of having people get regular testing. And I know you're dealing with different populations and issues, so I will be quiet, but those are the issues that we've discussed for the university in terms of reopening.
Yeah, I think just to piggyback on what Margaret said, anything involving space with gathering, any kind of placemaking needs clearly posted and clearly defined cleaning protocols, but also like space use protocols. So just like we would do any, population metering stuff, I think if it aligns with what's happening with the county, then it makes tons of sense to use that space as a resource base, whether it's like what you're talking about for people that need quiet study spaces. Maybe there's, cubicle styles so that there's a space even for like not a college student, but even just like a youth student that's been stuck at home with their siblings in the same room for the last 3 months has a place to come and like read a book. So creating kind of hands off in that way. So it's not a lot of labor for anybody to have to monitor besides the cleaning and maybe doing population metering. It could be kind of a cool open space for that use, and I can see people being grateful for it. And then I think also following suit to looking at what UCSB is or isn't able to do come fall in terms of some of the service providing, that maybe it's student specific, maybe it's not, but continuing on with the community center as a resource hub, whether specific to houseless community or becoming more expansive so that it can be a physical location for really anybody that needs a service. Because this is going to be, whether we're in a reopening or not, like people are still going to be needing to get connected to all kinds of stuff like unemployment or CalFresh or whatnot. So it feels like there could be a way where there's like active, like people that are volunteers that are working with AmeriCorps or whatever, doing some of the stuff, but then passively allowing space to be held with just really clear protocols, for cleaning. Seems like a good use of the space.
Hi, this is Deborah Anderson. How you guys doing today?
Hi, Deborah.
We are currently having the community center cleaned according to current COVID-19 standards or specifications by our cleaning service that was cleaning it before, because they're contracted through the county. At present, we pay extra for that because that was not originally part of our agreement with them for their cleaning services at the community center. So I'm not sure how we're going to handle that going forward on a service agreement level. We haven't negotiated anything long-term, and they've just been flexible in making sure that the facilities are cleaned according to those standards at present.
Great, yeah. Thank you for that feedback, Melissa and Deborah. Glad we can start thinking about these things right now.
Hi,
Any
so
other
for-
feedback?
This is Leonore. I just know, and as far as the general Santa Barbara County, the school districts have sent out a survey to parents. I have 2 teens in high school, and they're also kind of trying to get the same sense. It was questions like, are you comfortable sending your child to school in August? You know, and if we do this type of classroom setting, does that make you feel better? So I think there is no clear direction yet. People are just trying to get a sense. Personally, as a parent, I kind of didn't know I said I don't know how I would feel in August, just because things change so much. So I'm still kind of waiting to see. But I am holding a small kind of focus group, a parent group, to get a sense from our parents how they're feeling and what their needs are and what we can do or try to figure out. For example, I think in July we're going to do some bike rides with the foot patrol again. Socially distanced on the bikes, going here from Ivy down to Turnpike and back. So trying to find creative ways like that and being outdoors more, where we can still offer some support and services. So I'll have more information from some of our parents next week.
That's very cool to hear. Thank you, Leonore. And definitely pass that information along and we can spread it around. Any other feedback on COVID-19 related impacts? Okay, then I think with that, we're gonna move on to the second item, which is the Isla Vista Community Center building report. The CSD board commissioned a study to sort of look at the structural integrity of the community center building and get a third-party opinion of what condition it's in for our ongoing negotiations with the county to lease and eventually one day own that building. And we've got some results that we wanted to share with you. So I'll kick it over to Jonathan and Deborah to give a synopsis of that.
Yeah, Deborah was point on this, so I'll let her discuss it. But there's a lot in this report. It's very long, so please take your time to check it out if you can. But Deborah, if you want, please take it away with just the stuff about the community center itself.
Yes, thank you, Jonathan and Spencer. So I think what's most important for me to relate to the Community Advisory Board right now is that the assessment that was done was a property condition assessment. And the building inspector went through the building in its entirety. And so when you look at that report, you're going to find a lot of information there, such as information about the paint and the water heater and locks and access. But I think what I want to bring to your attention right now, and what is the most important, and I have this on the list, actually was the cleaning in light of the COVID-19, because that's High Point's cleaning. We're paying extra for that. Going forward, depending on how you guys want to use the building or we're able to use the building, we'll have to address the cost of that. The report speaks to the condition of the floor or the flooring in the community center, in that it is concrete only. And we had talked about putting in new flooring. We have a wrinkle in that plan right now. because it turns out that we have water leaking into the building onto the floor from the warehouse doors. And that's due to some improper grading of the building and around the building. So when you look at that report, you're also going to see a list of other repairs that need to happen to really bring the building up to ADA standards, accessibility standards, a certain level of comfort and use. There are repairs to be done to the water heater, and we've been talking about locks and access. So these are all things that I want to bring to your attention when you look at that report. And as Jonathan said, it's a big report. It has a lot of information in it. There is a budget there that, of course, the Community Services District will utilize as we move forward in managing and or owning the building. So that's kind of the big update for the Community Center 97 Embarcadero Del Mar. That, along with our landscape project, which really didn't cease, but has kind of rolled back. You may have noticed that a lot of work has been done around the building. We were really trying to move forward and getting it, all of the area around the building cleaned up so that we could move forward with some of the design plans that you all had talked about in regards to a garden and water or drought friendly plants, a walkway. So those are all things that we were looking at in the landscape project. We haven't finalized a budget for that. We were looking to get a lot of donated items, but the COVID-19 has kind of put a glitch on our landscape experts availability. But our Ivy Beautiful team members, they continue to work and clean up around the building. So we will be moving forward with that project. That project or landscape is also an issue identified in the property condition assessment report. So you'll see that there also. Do you guys have any questions? Can I share anything else?
Any other questions for Deborah?
Can you guys hear me okay?
Was this just, sorry, maybe I missed the context, but was this is just like a regular annual building condition project? Like it just happens annually with the county where they do a building inspection? Is that sort of the general idea?
No.
No.
Spencer or Jonathan, do you want to respond to that or shall I?
Sure.
I might have missed it. Sorry. I don't think I knew the context.
No worries. So the impetus behind the building report was to get an assessment of what the building's condition was as the CSD board goes through the process of negotiating with the county to lease the building.
Oh, okay.
And
gotcha. Like an appraisal.
we've been pretty clear also that our ultimate goal is to own the building and to have the county deed us these properties. And so the great news that I'll take away, just sort of to tie up Deborah's great report, is that the community center building is in good condition. We have some minor repairs that need to be made, but overall, the renovations that have been put in by the county did leave us in overall a pretty good shape of the building, which is good news.
Thank you for clarifying. I was thinking it sounded like an appraisal process, like what we did at the co-op when we had to buy the building. So it's interesting to hear that like broader plan that's being considered. I love that the CSD is considering buying this. That's so cool to hear. Thank you.
Thank you, Melissa.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions or feedback?
Yeah, all I'm gonna say is in terms of where this report goes moving forward is we're gonna want to look at, what improvements that are listed out we can make on either building, but here we're focusing on the community center, but which improvements we can make more quickly, which ones we'll have to chart out over the next few years to do. And then we've also got some money in our board, so that could be used if anybody knew of grants. We would have a money to hire somebody or contract somebody to help us get more resources for the building. So we've got a good reserve for capital at this point, but we need way more than what our reserve is, even though it is pretty substantial. So keep an eye on grants if you know it, because we're probably going to have a good amount of funding to hire people to go after them and match our dollars.
Thanks for that, Jonathan. With that, I think we can go ahead and move on to our third item, the community center staff update.
Great. So as you all may have known or noticed, Diana Collins-Puente is no longer working as the Isla Vista Community Center Director, and Paulina Arango, the Assistant Director, she also resigned her position, but want to make it clear that both left for completely unrelated reasons. Paulina had a planned job in Los Angeles for a while, and Diana went back to Associated Students to work at a good opportunity there. So it was nothing about the work conditions or the work being done or anything like that. So wanted to let you all know about that. But in terms of moving forward, the current thinking is that we will in-house the staff. So we'd hire the director, the equivalent of the director and assistant director as CSD employees. And we will not hire the director position, at least for midway through this fiscal year, as we don't know what's going on with actual programming at the building. But we will hire the equivalent position of the assistant director that we're developing, the job description and in the attachment, or it's a draft list of job duties. So we're thinking that the assistant director will become something like a community organizer who also handles the relationships with some user groups as they're reserving the space, but then also does community work beyond that to kind of use the community center as a center for community organizing. And then later there'll be an assistant general manager over the community center program and any future staff we have in this area. And this would be pretty much equivalent to Diana's role, include fund strategic planning for the community center, overall management of its budget, and everything Diana was doing. So that's the idea right now, is to delay that higher level position for at least a part of the way through the next fiscal year, and then hire the other one more sooner. Is there any input on this whole concept of we're going to be staffless for a while, but there hasn't been a noticed need beyond what Deborah and I can handle for right now? So,
Jonathan, this is Ana Maya.
yes.
So, hi. The assistant director will be doing as well the organization of people reserving the community center and the community room in the future.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions?
If anybody at this point has any input on the jobs that we're going to be putting forward that relate to the community center, please let me know, just because it's not going to be finalized for right away. And I'd love to get anyone's input on, now that we've had this running and we've seen it a little bit in action, anything that you think is important for these roles to take into account what you see here is pretty much a copy paste of Deanna and Paulina's positions with maybe like one or two things added, but nothing had been removed.
One thing, Jonathan, to clarify on Anamaya's question about who's responsible for scheduling. So I think that's on here as the community engagement coordinator, which would be the position that is sort of like equivalent to Paulina's old position.
Yeah.
Rather than the community center director position. Which
that was handling that unless like Paulina couldn't for any reason. So it's that's consistent.
Okay, yeah, just clarifying since given the last question. Overall, I mean, I think this is exciting because even though there's a lot of uncertainty right now with COVID-19, with the fact that we just don't really have a full picture of how we'll be able to use our public spaces, we will be able to build some of that capacity and bring a position online for someone to be able to not just do some of these duties that are sort of like making the wheels turn on the community center and the community room, but also be able to like serve in that community organizer role and really do a lot of these outreach and communications and things. So I'm excited to see how that helps just improve the awareness of the spaces that we have and the services that we have as well. So I'm cautiously optimistic. Any other comments or questions? Okay, cool. With that, unless anyone has anything else under public comment, I think we're going to move ahead to adjournment.
I have one thing. I'm no longer the EVPLA, so I was wondering how we should go about kind of transitioning and adding Yasmin to the board instead of me.
Yeah,
hey,
we'll have a resolution appointing Yasmin
okay,
one of the next meetings.
Got it.
Thanks, Christian, and welcome, Yasmin. We're happy to have you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay.
Both.
So with that, our next meeting, it's scheduled for Thursday the 16th at 3 p.m. Jonathan, do you think we'll throw another doodle out there instead of trying to use that regular time, since it seemed like that the time had become a little bit not the best for people?
Yeah, I'll just check with everybody that we have a quorum ahead of time.
That's great. And any other public comment? I see Jeff, you're joining us and you've turned your webcam on, so okay, just checking in.
The only reason
right.
I turned on my webcam was because for a while my picture was there and it was fine, but then when all of a sudden I didn't see the screen. I mean, it didn't really matter, so I just, as you were ending the meeting, I thought I would say hello and thank you all for your service.
Well, thank you. We're glad to have you joining us. Okay, with that, we will adjourn the meeting and we will see you all for our meeting in July.
Do we have a next
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, everyone. Have a nice day.